Thank you. Thanks so much, Rosie. So I used to think that I was somebody that was obsessed with love. And it's true to say I spent a long time thinking about it. And I spent a lot of Sundays looking at couples in my teens and 20s holding hands in the park, thinking, will I ever find love? Am I going to be on my own forever? And it really became the question that I was consumed by, and that sort of drained a lot of other happiness from my life, because I assumed that if I could just find this romantic relationship, then everything else in my life would fall into place, and I would be happy. But at that point, I wasn't really. I mean, I would look at my life at the beginning of every year and I would think, okay, career, I can pour loads of effort into that. I can maybe have a career change or try and get a promotion. Here's what I can do. Or with my health, here are the areas I need to focus on, and it's pretty clear what I need to do to improve them. But when I look at love, I think, well, there's just nothing that I can do about it. It's just something that will either happen to me or not. And I would just sit here and wait for it and be miserable when it never finds me. But during that period, I never really stopped to ask what love is. Like, what does it mean? What's my definition of it? And embarrassingly, I was much more obsessed with finding someone to love me. I didn't really think about what it might be like to give love, or how I could improve it, or how I could contribute to it. And I don't think that many of us do. We're not really encouraged to learn to prioritize love in the same way that we would our career or our health or our body. And we're certainly not encouraged to learn about it in the way we would grammar or geography or politics. So that's why years later, after my many failures and mistakes, I decided to do exactly that, to begin prioritizing love and pouring as much attention into learning about it as I would anything else important in my life. Because it's kind of crazy if you think about it, that this thing we know is so important, we expect it to just tick along, and for us not to really carve out any time to learning about it or practicing it or getting better at it. So that's why for the last 4 years, I've been interviewing authors and experts and writers about all the different shapes of love in their lives. I guess like the aim has been to investigate love one conversation at a time. And it really is no exaggeration to say that the lessons and the conversations I've had have changed my life. And there's something that I now lean on every day, and just have transformed the way I am with everybody who I love in my life. So tonight I'm going to try and very speedily tell you 5 of the more surprising things that I've learned about love, in the hope that maybe they can help you too. So number 1 is really about looking for love, and it's to not always trust your gut. And I was somebody who just completely trusted their gut in love the whole time. I remember meeting a comedy sketch writer with a friend when I was in my early 20s and saying, I'm going to marry this man within minutes. And I remember being in a relationship that was not very happy, and friends saying to me, it just doesn't feel right. You don't seem happy. And I said, you don't understand. I just feel it in my bones, this connection. And I understood this more years later when I interviewed a psychotherapist called Frank Tallis. And he said to me, sometimes we use those words like chemistry or gut feeling or this sort of mystical connection to somebody when we don't really have any evidence of a real connection. Like, I had no examples of kindness or consistent periods of time spent with somebody, or just acts of care. And so what can happen is, because you don't have anything tangible to hang the feeling on, you almost think that it's more profound. You're like, I can't describe it, so it must be fate. There are no words for it, so it must be profound. So in this way, almost it's like your lack of evidence can fuel the romantic mysticism. And of course, that's just one false inference feeding another. So I found that really helpful, just to be slightly suspicious of chemistry and gut feelings that come automatically in love. Not just because they might not be a sign of real intimacy, but also because they could be a sign of a complete lack of it. That's number one. Number two is that feelings are not enough. And I did used to imagine that love was the feeling that I would get when I looked at somebody and cared about them deeply, and the feeling that they would feel when they did the same to me. But something that's come up again and again, actually, in my conversations is just that feelings are not enough to sustain a relationship. And firstly, because we won't always feel in love with our partners. And sometimes you might look at somebody and feel that like deep love for them, and the next hour or day you look at them and feel deeply frustrated and irritated by them. And what I've learned is love is not the feeling that disappears in those moments. It's actually the decision to be kind or to choose to act lovingly towards someone even in those moments. And it's, sometimes that's what love is. It's choosing to act lovingly towards someone even when we don't feel in love with them. But the second part of that is something that the psychotherapist and couples therapist Esther Perel told me, that she said if one of her clients comes to her and says, I love my partner, she's like, well, that's all very well, but what do you do to demonstrate that love? The fact that you feel it isn't enough. You need to go out of your way to demonstrate to that person that they're important to you. And I think about that all the time now. I just carry that line like a little talisman in my head. If I'm sitting there thinking about missing and loving a friend or loving my partner, it's no good really to just sit there and have those feelings. You have to remind yourself to show that intention to them and to just find ways to demonstrate that somebody's important to you. So remembering that feeling in love is not enough has been very useful to me. Number three is that long-term love is mysterious. And I think, again, another unhelpful assumption that I had about love was that long-term love involved finding out and knowing absolutely everything about another person, and there being nothing that you didn't tell them, and you just knew each other so fully. And an author called Mira Jacob helped me to see, like, of course that's impossible. We can never really know another person, because when you begin a relationship with someone, you're not really choosing a person, you're choosing how you weather change. Sorry, that's obviously a supermarket delivery. How you weather change with and alongside them, because one of your parents going to get sick, one of your sex drive's going to change, somebody's going to lose their job and somebody's going to get a promotion. All these things change. And that would lead to each of you having different versions of yourself that are going to emerge, and you have to keep getting to know those different versions. And Mira said sometimes she's been with her partner for 20 years. She'll be sat around and he'll say something and she'll be like, who are you? Even after 20 years, he'll be so new to her in that moment. And I used to find that, I used to think there was safety in knowing someone completely. And now I really think the opposite, that that's what makes long-term love so amazing, that there still can be mystery you can find in somebody after 20 years. And actually, it's not that you fall in love at the beginning and that's that. We have opportunities to fall in love again and again. And I guess, like, you can always write new beginnings into your familiar love stories. And then number 4 is that life is full of many different love stories. Like I said at the beginning, I sort of approach this thinking, oh, I want to find romantic love, and that's what I see love as, and this is going to be my be all and end all. But I've interviewed people about their love for a poem and a tree and a city, and I've spoken to people who found love in the midst of grief, and who have found love in connecting to a stranger in a really vulnerable moment. So these conversations have just expanded my idea of love into this big, boundless thing. And I just see that it comes in so many shapes and forms and acts, but also that none of those things are acquired or given. And actually we have to learn and earn them and keep choosing them every day. So I've been getting asked a lot, speaking about love coming out of the pandemic, about, how is this going to change, and people are emerging from this much more convinced about how important love is, and I'm feeling that from people. People know that they want to be in each other's physical presence, and they value their friendships, and they want to be with people and build communities. But maybe I'm a little cynical in that I think we know these things and we learn these lessons, but we forget them so easily. And I think there is a risk that we get back to normal lives, and those things slip away again. So I hope that what Conversations on Love will be for people is what it's been for me, which is just a constant reminder, small reminders all the time, to not let the people in your life slip into the background, and just to recognize and pay attention to all the small opportunities that exist for love inside each day.